Welcome to another edition of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at KU.
Hello, we are back for the 96th episode of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator for the KU School of Journalism and Mass Communications. Today we are joined by KU alum Abby Stuke. She's the Marketing and Events Director for the Lenexa Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Abby.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. I know I'm a big believer in events and marketing. So how do those two kind of work together?
So events and marketing, they work one and the same. Events, you think that's usually just actually going to an event, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes which encapsulates marketing. So you of course build the structure of the event, but you have to find ways to then share that event with people to then get them to come to your event.
And I know when you first started with the Lenexa Chamber, I think you were strictly like events coordinator or director. So was this position created for you, or was this a position you kind of actively sought out?
Well, actually, at our office, we're a staff of 6. And so the events director is the position I started in. Did not go to KU for event management,
right.
But the position, again, event management encapsulates not just the structure, but the marketing piece. And it just kind of evolved over the years, and had a conversation with our CEO and said, is there any way we can incorporate maybe the marketing into this title, because the events are much more than just events, and so there's marketing elements that I really, from my experience at KU, was able to incorporate in my position. So it was kind of an evolving position description that just changed a little bit. So
now, do you personally get a set like the event schedule for the year, or is that something somebody else says and then you kind of make it all happen?
Well, pretty much, we are a very collaborative office. So our CEO, again, being a staff of 6, you can go down to their office and just ask questions. But we do it very collaboratively because there's a lot of other pieces besides our major networking events that we do have to then move schedules around for our CEO when she's out of town, or her legislative advocacy efforts and her meetings, trying to find those most opportune times. So I don't necessarily set it. I help provide a kind of an outline, and then we collaborate and then say, this is how we want to move forward, and we'll do that.
So who do you directly report to? Is that the CEO?
Yes,
or is there
our
somebody?
CEO.
Oh, you get
yep.
direct
We have
awesome.
a COO as well, so if our CEO is, maybe she's in a meeting or she's out of town at a conference or something like that, then our CEO is the next person from there.
So what is the key to running a great event? How do you know that I did my job?
Well, sometimes you don't always know because you're just trying to just get through the event, sometimes just to make sure there's nothing that goes wrong. But the biggest thing is to see people at the very end come up to you and say, I really had a great time, or I learned something new, or I made a new connection that I'm able to help grow my business and their business at the same time. Just those big pieces. And when our facilitators and our speakers, just when everybody has a great time and hearing that directly back, they share that with us, that's when I know for sure. Because there's things as an events director, or even in the journalism world, that you would only know that go on behind the scenes that nobody else would know. Like if something's out of place. The grand scheme of things, people may not know. But so as an events person, you take that on, knowing next time to make that better. But for the grand scheme, just hearing that people had a great time and got something out of it in the end is the very important part. So. And
I know the few events that I coordinate here at the JA School, or just throughout my professional career, my philosophy is always try to eliminate as many moving parts as I can.
Correct.
I don't know, what do you think of that?
Yes, I am right there with you, because you want to think about events in the way that if you were to attend, how would you want it to go? So and then also talking to your audience, talking to our CEO, who maybe has had more conversations with our speakers, that this is where they need to sit, they're more comfortable, just trying to alleviate any little hiccup that could happen. You can't plan for them all. Sometimes they do just happen on their own, but trying to put as many of those barriers in front and thinking of those things is very helpful.
And how do you respond? Because I'm sure there are times where your jaw might drop. It's like, oh, I did not expect that to happen. Do you just kind of go with the flow, or how do you respond when that happens?
Well, you go with the flow. You just you remain calm. That's the biggest part, and find a solution. And sometimes that's where we have a great staff that we all, a lot of my fellow coworkers have been at the Lenexa Chamber for double-digit years. So we have a very great team who knows kind of the structure, so that if something goes crazy and I need to go handle a different piece, they can just run with it. So just remaining calm, and then trying to find a way to resolve the situation at that point. And if you can't make it at that point in time, find a way to make up for it at the end. Whether if it's like somebody who wasn't registered and they needed to be there, finding a way to make that happen.
And I would assume, like for your events, the budget kind of varies depending on the event.
Yep, a lot of our networking events, so we offer those at a variety of times of the day. A lot of those are free, but when we have our luncheons, usually when something incorporates food, like a meal, that's where it does cost something. So it does depends on how big of an event. We have our big annual meetings, which can range closer to maybe a larger price point per ticket or table, to where maybe some of our luncheons might be a little smaller, or speed networking events. So kind of just depends on what it is, but as we all know, food costs are, things are just changing, so it's always a variable time. So
I would have to assume being organized is something critical to this position. I mean, are you a 3-ring notebook person? Is everything on a spreadsheet? I mean, how do you manage all the?
Well, it's kind of a balance of both.
Okay.
So when you are on an event site, you need to have an actual binder. So for the golf tournament that we run, for our luncheons, our bigger events, I typically take a binder with me. So that just has everything. I mean, now we have laptops that we can take with us and be mobile, but for me, having paper in front of me is very helpful. Otherwise, it's spreadsheets, it's sometimes Word documents that are going through scripts and things like that. It's kind of just a conglomeration of multiple things. So.
And during your time at KU, I know you're involved in a lot of different things. I mean, what can you look back and find out, like, what skills did help you for a job like this?
Yeah. So again, I did not plan to go into event management. It kind of just happened. But the biggest piece that the journalism school in here at KU was the storytelling piece. And what I try to do every time is help tell our story with marketing and events, whether it's the chamber's story or if one of our chamber members is hosting the event. We want to tell their story. So the storytelling piece, being able to edit videos, graphic design, writing scripts, being able to write a narrative piece, that is the most important thing. And I am forever grateful to the J School for sharing those skill sets and knowing how to communicate. That's another part.
Very important. I know you said you kind of fell into event management. So what was your career dream?
So when I was at KU, actually 2 weeks on as a freshman, I joined Rock Chalk Video. So I did all of the video production work for KU Athletics with a great team led by Mike Lickert. And so at that time, I was like, oh, sports broadcasting, something like that behind the scenes. I'm not necessarily one in front of the camera, but it was maybe sports. It was something in the journalism. I mean, something with storytelling in that realm. But when I got involved with the KU Alumni Association and more with the journalism school and campaigns classes, and just the biggest thing is connecting people. And so that kind of ebbed and flowed. It's still the storytelling piece, but being able to help tell other stories to help bring bridges together for them to then grow. So kind of ebbed and flowed into it, but I have a huge love for sports. So that's still there, but just enjoy watching at home now. So.
And I know you had a lot of, you shared some great photos, like behind the scenes, producing, camera operation. Looked like you had, worked on when Bill Clinton was on campus. I think Bob Dotson, I think you got to meet him.
Yeah.
Or William Allen White citation winners. And then you got to hang out with the chancellor for a while. So did you just kind of gravitate towards that, or did you jump at those assignments, or did that just sort of happen, like bumping into those?
Yeah. Well, some of those assignments, it was opportunities at the J School, and they were looking. Rock Chalk Video, when you're intertwined, a lot of your J School classmates, of course, are working on different projects, and when you get to know them, and they know you worked well together, they can call if they're in a bind and say, hey, would love you to come work. The Bill Clinton, when President Clinton was here, that was actually one of those instances. Laura Fernie, who I worked with at Rock Chalk Video and in the J School, she said, hey, I need some other people to help run cameras. So that was the big piece. But seeking out those opportunities are very important because as I've learned and as anybody knows, the world gets small very fast. So you never know where those connections will lead you, and never close an open door for an opportunity to go just see what it's like. And you may turn out to be that you enjoy it, or you may realize maybe this isn't what I want to do, and that's helpful in guiding you next into whatever that may be. So. And
I know before you transitioned to like events director role, you spent some time as a communications director for Spring Hill School District. What was that time like?
So that was right after, that was the second job out of college. So I was at Kiewit for an internship. That just didn't pan out to be what I was looking to do. So went to the Spring Hill School District. I was the communications specialist, and we had our communications director, so a small team at that point. Worked on a bond issue at that point because Spring Hill is growing very fast, and I know they still are, and I think they're starting another bond issue too. But working to help tell their story. It was just a 2-person team, and the communications director, she she and I worked to tell those different stories, helped her. So it was kind of an introductory into not where I was the point person for that, but I was able to help supplement and learn. And that's usually what happens when you land your first job. It's more of a learning piece. And then the more you get settled, the more you show, then that's where you grow and can get into those different opportunities.
And it seems, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like in recent years, school communications has become more and more important because you got so many audiences, you got so many different platforms to tell that story. Did you have kind of an area of specialty? I mean, were you like the newsletter editor, social media, or did you read a little bit of everything?
It was kind of a jack of all trades. And again, Misty Etchison, she's no longer there, but was a great directional guide on that and just helping supplement all of those different pieces to be able to tell the story of Spring Hill and the students and all the great things they had going on.
Now, was that a job you were kind of on call 24/7, or was that the person above you had to be kind of on call in case of a
That
crisis?
was more of Misty, more of Misty. But again, I would always just be on just the lookout just in case something popped up. But again, I was only there for a short, probably 8 months before I was then asked to come to the chamber, and so that's where kind of that was a little bit. So.
And I also noticed amongst your busy schedule, you also had time to get a master's degree.
Yes.
Was that something you had always hoped to do, or did that kind of develop
Yeah.
later in your career aspirations?
I had thought about it at some point, just because the continuous learning piece was something I honestly didn't realize how much I missed until I started coursework. But the more I was working through the chamber and working with all of these different businesses, I just thought, you know what, there's got to be, I want to take that next step into adding more to my skill set to help better my organization, to help better myself as an individual in the working world, all of those good things. So it was an MBA in marketing, so there was the specialty in marketing, so but understanding all of the other things that are incorporated. I also at the chamber help with our accounting department, so it's kind of an all-encompassing piece. So understanding some of those other things was helpful in that aspect.
And was that an in-person program or online, hybrid?
It was completely online. So
okay.
I had student classmates that were, Park's a very military focused school. And so they had, I had a classmate that was in Germany on an Air Force base over there. So the time zones were fun. But it was just to hear all these different perspectives. That is the one thing I just can't iterate enough how much I missed really collaborating in a different aspect outside of course, the working world, but in that educational piece. So.
And I know you've touched a little bit, I think, on a couple of internship experiences, and I think with the KU Alumni Association, you did digital media internship. What was that time like?
So that one was a lot of data analytics.
Okay.
So helping them understand kind of the different pieces that went into their email marketing, providing them a report basically every week as to, hey, here's what the social media platforms looked like, what's working, what's not working, but more of here's the information, and then sat with them to have them talk it through, but was able to learn that skill set and how to digest or how to present that information, that data. So
when you look back at your time at KU, do you ever wonder like how you did it all? Because I was looking at your list, maybe I'm missing some, but I know you're involved in Student Alumni Association, Student Alumni Leadership Board, VP of Communications Diversity Action and Inclusion Group, Committee KU School of Journalism. You're a co-anchor producer, American Business Women's Association. I'm sure I left something off.
Yeah.
How did you manage all that?
Well, I will say the biggest thing that during my time at KU was Rock Chalk Video took a huge, outside of classwork, Rock Chalk Video, I mean, every sporting event that you could think of, football, basketball, baseball, swim and dive, volleyball, our team covered it all. So I never went to a game as a student at all during my time. I wouldn't have traded it for the world. But finding the things that are filling you with joy is what is important. Finding those things, and if you've been involved for a little bit and it's not maybe what you're wanting to be, it's okay to say I'm gonna go explore something else. But during that time, it was just finding the things that were important and making time for those things that were important. I know when I went home on the weekends, whenever the chances were, my roommate was like, "Why don't you stay?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm ready to go home and have a little bit of a break." But again, just finding the things that bring you joy, that you enjoy, spending your time on that, putting your full energy into that, and then moving on to whatever the next thing may be. So.
Well, our spring commencement, we're just, I think, about a month away. What advice would Abby have for the class of 2025 for somebody that wants to do what you're doing now, or maybe the steps you took to get there? What advice would you have for them?
The biggest advice is to never stop asking questions. Understanding how everything intertwines and works. In my job, I work with a variety of different businesses and organizations that have a variety of different skill sets. So ask people why did you get into what you do, and that also then helps you kind of in your path to figuring out what you want to do. Maybe the first job you get out of college is not necessarily your forever be all. It's okay to move around, but just don't close doors to opportunities. Take those chances, learn, be a lifelong learner, and just be engaged in whatever you do. Because again, we're only here for a time on this earth, and you've got to just find what you enjoy and just being a continuous learner. So
great advice. We'll have to give you the microphone at Memorial Stadium so you can speak to the class.
Oh my goodness, that's Eric Danielson's job, and actually he was the one that helped introduce me to Rock Chalk Video, so we will let him have that one. So,
well, before you go, I like to close with kind of a quick fast five. I hope we have some fun with this. So obviously you're in event management. If you had to be involved in planning a national event, which one would you choose?
oh my God.
If that's a sporting event, say a Super Bowl, the Emmys. I mean, is there one marquee event that, hey, I think I can do that?
The Emmys would probably be the top one. So the Midwest Regional Emmys were here, so I did get to help with that here while I was at KU as a student. Actually got to hold an Emmy, which was fun. But that would probably be the all-time, either the Emmys or the Oscars, one of the two.
Okay.
But from sports realm, Super Bowl for sure. So.
So what events do you like planning the most? Is there one that you think I can do that the best, or which one do you really like?
Our Lenexa Golf Classic is one that we always have a theme. So we've had Jurassic Par, playing on the golf puns. We've had May the Course Be With You. So that's always been one that has just been, it's the same structure. It's a typical golf tournament, but plugging in our members for sponsorship opportunities, but having fun with that theme and to see them get involved in the decor and all sorts of things like that.
Okay. So last event question.
Yeah.
So I assume you've attended events that you don't have to coordinate. Of those events, what do you look for the first? I mean, are you always in critique mode, or what are you looking for when you attend a non-Abby Stuke-led event?
Well, I just look to see if there's things that maybe from that event that I've learned that maybe would help me in my job. Is there something that another organization's doing that I'd be like, that would be beneficial for us to take a look at? But it's not always in critique mode. When I go to a sporting event, of course, I always look for the cameras just with my Rock Chalk Video experience. But otherwise, I'm always one that's willing to help too, because I understand what those event professionals are going through. And sometimes I just say thank you a lot because I know it takes a lot of time. So, but.
Yeah, always. That's one thing. When people don't RSVP for an event, I always say I always want them to create an event, coordinate, and their whole mindset changes. Like, oh my God, there's so many different steps, and it is important for people to respond. So.
But sometimes you got to go with the flow, or people are like, man, I was out of town, but it opened up. So again, with Chamber World, we understand that again schedules can change on the fly. So we do our best to accommodate those who sometimes can't join us until the very last minute. So which is good.
So you're involved with the KU Student Alumni Association. Did you come in contact with any famous KU alums during that time? Or is there one memorable person you came in contact with?
Not maybe during that time, but I know afterwards I've had a chance to hear Kevin Wilmot speak. Bob Dotson, of course, I got to hear him speak at the William Allen White citation in college. John Holt. I mean, it's a couple of those different people that I've not necessarily sat down and directly talked to, but just have seen or had a chance to hear from. Actually ran into John Holt at Rock Chalk Forever, which is the KU Alumni fundraiser, so which is coming up actually on Saturday. So
awesome. So last question, what was your most memorable student media experience at KU? I know you're involved in a lot of sporting and events, so was there that one student media experience that really resonated with you?
Well, it's also a personal note. So senior day, so KU football, as we all know, we absolutely, when I was here, so I was here from 13 to 17, and KU football was kind of up, down, and all around. And our senior day, we played Texas, and it was of course, it was on ABC. It was prime time, all of those different things, and just didn't know how that game was going to pan out. Turns out, of course, the record books and everything, KU did beat Texas, and so after a long couple of seasons of just being there to support, to see the students, the football team, the staff, just everybody be so excited. That was just one of the best things, and to be able to celebrate that with my team members at Rock Chalk Video and just all of the students, that was a huge momentous. I know that's a sports one, but some of my dearest friends that I've met are Rock Chalk Video alumni, and so to be able to experience that from the highs and lows and all everything, be able to experience that with them was awesome.
So you're working behind the scenes that day?
Yes, I was in the control box. Nice. So I think I was running advertisements or replays. I can't remember 100%, but I know our Mike Lickert was like, everybody remain calm, and I'm like, Mike, this is really hard because we're going to win this game. So lots of fun.
All right. Well, Abby, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to join us from your busy schedule. And I always like to say, hey, cheers to your careers.
Cheers to careers.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you so much.